Do you want to take your soap from being a nice bar of soap to a finished bar of soap ready for gift giving or professionally selling it? Take a misshapen bar like the one on the left or the right and make it nice and uniform using a tool known as the Soap Beveler Planer. Today's episode will be showing that particular tool and how we do it. Stay tuned. Hi again, welcome to Soaping It Up with Diane Lalomia. Today, we're going to do something I usually don't talk about, but I think that people should be themselves. They should be natural and let their own beauty shine through. Maybe they're not the same size as everybody else, or the same height, or same color, or same whatever, but it makes us different. It makes us special. But today, we're going to be taking our soap one step further from being a little different and maybe a little wonky in size and not quite the shape we want. Great bar of soap, but doesn't it look much more professional and ready for gifting when it's been cleaned up? Well, that's an oxymoron, cleaning up soap. Well, stay tuned and you can find out how in just a moment. Okay, all set with gloves. I recommend wearing gloves to keep the soap residue off your fingers. So if you get called to the door or a phone call or the kids or whatever might come up. So what you're going to do is just push this gently across the blade here. It's going against the blade. You can't go this way. You have to go this way in order to catch the blade in the proper position. And I will take this side off. I'm going to go twice on that because there's some roughness. It's uneven, and sometimes I'll turn it around and go from the other direction until I get the smoothness that I want. Oop, I just hit a air pocket or something in the soap. So I'm going to keep going until I get a nice smooth edge. Alrighty. And you can tell which sides of the soap you've done and which sides haven't been done if you get it in the light. A certain light will show you the imperfections in your soap. And I'm trying to kind of get this particular soap. Some of the soap is a little lopsided. So I'm trying to kind of even it up and make it square, more rectangular shape. The mold that I used, it seemed to be a little higher in spots. I had actually 2 bars. It was kind of a new mold that I was trying. So you can see this soap is still kind of sweating. Its cure date was yesterday. However, because it's a Bastille soap and made predominantly of olive oil, this soap is going to need to cure longer than a lot of my other soap recipes. So I've taken off all of the 4 sides and kind of given it a bevel. I go twice when I do the corners, the sharper corners. When I do these corners, I don't think that twice is necessary. I typically only do it once, unless there is some kind of a reason to do it more. Now, if you see on this soap, this corner is a little bit rounder than the other corners. That's because I was just learning how to line the mold with freezer paper, and I made the mistake of not checking to make sure it was in the corner of the mold really nice and square. And so that little gap where it wasn't creased into the corner with the freezer paper allowed for it to be somewhat rounded on that particular corner. And since I had a mold that was 2 loaves long, this corner is sharp because this is where I cut the loaves into. So in order to make this look symmetrical, I'm going to take a little bit more off the corners than usual, just so it kind of evens up and it doesn't look so odd on that one corner. Now a lot of people say, oh, don't you lose a lot of weight when you do this to the soaps, and you know, beveling them and shaving them and cleaning them up. Actually, not as much as you might think. Weighs 117 grams or 4.15 ounce. This bar weighs 4.15 ounce, and now we're going to clean it up. Remember, 4.15, and make sure you keep your fingers out of the way because you can take off a chunk of skin there. That is a sharp blade. It's not anything to be fooling around with. And if you're doing a lot of soap, the lady that sells these, her husband makes them, recommends that you wear one of those office fingertip protectors, you know, those little things that, like a thimble that's made out of a rubber or latex or something, to wear that to protect your fingers and to be careful. A band-aid might work as well, but main thing is to be very careful when using this. This is not something that children should be messing with. That's for sure. Now, I want to take a little bit more off of this top, hopefully. Get this squared up a little bit better. Now, once I bevel it, hopefully it will look more in a little more even. So that one I got a little crooked with. Okay, let's see. The soap looks pretty good. Corner isn't that beveled on this one, so I don't have to take off quite as much. So it's weighing at 3.7 ounces. So it's below a 4-ounce bar now. It's 3.70. So you are going to lose some weight of your soap, but if you look at the soap and the difference between this soap and, let's say, this soap, you can see quite the difference in the bar of soap. It's even more noticeable on some bars than others. Some recipes. Now, I had a batch that had some soda ash on the top, which is nothing more than a little, it's not attractive. It's not like it's really harmful, but it looked a lot different once it got cleaned up. But with the crinkle cut, there's not as much trimming and planing and beveling on the soap to notice a huge difference, but it does look better in my opinion. This soap it still has a ways to go before it'll be cured and ready. I can see it's still sweating moisture on the soap. I don't know if you can see it on the soap, but beads a little bit of moisture, and that leaves a little bit of tackiness on my gloves. That's why I use the gloves. But the best time to plane the soap is when it's still somewhat soft. You don't want to wait till it's cured completely, because the hard soap is going to be harder to trim off. But you don't want to do it right after it comes out of the mold, because you don't want to do it when it's so soft that you'll squish it when you're holding on to the soap as you're passing it over the planer. So there's a happy medium. You'll have to find out with your recipe what works the best. Okay, and now I'm going to show you a little trick. Is on the side here where the screw is, you can take this beveler part off. It has a screw, wing nut screw and a washer. Just make sure you don't lose the pieces. And slip this puppy off. Now you don't have to take this screw out, but it does come out if you're switching over to a left-handed version. But what I'd like to do is to take that off and clean up the soap tool after you're done up under that edge. But it also gives you the option of taking this soap, and we'll just show you on this soap. When you're planing it, it's best to plane it in a diagonal direction like this, going this way instead of straight on like this, because you can create soap curls. Now on this one it didn't work very well because it's so concave on the bottom. And my soap that I'm working on right now is crinkle cut, so that doesn't work. So let's try. This is my Royal Exfoliant soap, which has some color and design to it, and I can do it like in a diagonal manner. Now this has been curing for longer than I would normally wait, but by rubbing it across, and the hesitation, when you get a hesitation, you're going to get a little bit of a divot that you don't want. But if you do it diagonally, you can create soap curls. And when you have a soap that has a design or color or pattern and create soap curls, you can use those in future soaps as a decorative embedded element, which I plan on doing. So that's something that is nice about the planer, is having the option to use your leftovers from your soap for another project and to create something else new and exciting. You want to keep going and not stop, but you get the idea, and you need to have not too hard of a soap or it won't curl. If you've got a recipe that's a real hard, like a Castile soap, would not be as likely to curl. So that's one way to trim up your soap and have a nice product and have something for a future product. And it's very easy to put back together. Oops, don't forget the washer. So that you can go back to the beveling. Now you'll notice I have a mat underneath. The silicone mat just helps to keep the soap scraps off the table. It makes for easier cleanup. Thanks for joining me at the Great Soap Experiment and soaping it up with Diane LaLomia. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy.